This is Matthew Lubart's interview project. So today I am interviewing Eileen Lubart. She is my grandma on my father's side of the family. She comes from a 100% Jewish descent, and all of her grandparents immigrated to America from Europe. Okay, so how many relatives do you know of immigrated to America?
My relatives?
Yeah.
2, 4, 5, 6. About 8 or 9.
Where did most of those relatives come from, or all of them?
Some came from Russia, and some came from Austria, and my grandmother on my father's side, my mother's side, said sometimes the country was called Hungary, sometimes it was called Czechoslovakia. It's whoever won the war then.
Okay. So how did your relatives get to America? Like,
Okay, they came by boat. And my grandmother told me the story that she came with her friend, and they were going to come in through Ellis Island, where the Statue of Liberty is, but they rejected them because one of them was sick, so they sent them back. And my grandmother told me that she wasn't truthful about her age, because she was about 13 and you had to be older, so she said she was older. But then she came back, they sent them back, and then she came back again, and they kept them on, she had to stay on Ellis Island until her brothers came and picked her up, because they lived in Philadelphia. Okay?
okay. So, why did they immigrate from Europe to America?
Because they were not treated fairly when they were in Europe. A lot of it has to do because they were Jewish. And some of them came over, the ones that came over from Austria, they came over in about 1890 because they had money, some more money. And then my other ones came over in the early 1900s because they weren't treated fairly there. And they heard the United States was, you could be anything to come here.
And I know you said that they came in the late 1800s, but when did most of them, or the time frame that all of them came to America?
I would say in the early 1900s.
And how many of your relatives went through Ellis Island?
I only know of 4. I don't know the story about my father's relatives, but I know that they were from Russia. His parents.
And do you have any, did they tell you anything about their experience on Ellis Island?
The only one who told me was my grandmother, because they kept her there for 3 weeks until her brothers would come for her. They said they fed them right, They treated them nicely. They just, her brothers had to come for her.
And building off that question, do you have like any interesting stories about any of your relatives' journeys to America?
No. They didn't like to, they just were so thankful that they were here. And they were my mother's parents were very hard workers. My grandfather, he had a restaurant, a luncheonette, and he worked very hard. And my grandma, she made everything from scratch. And on Saturdays, my mother and I and brother would go down there to help her, because my mother's brother, who worked with him, got very sick and he couldn't work anymore. So I would go down one Saturday, and my grandmother would make me anything that I liked. And the best thing was, it was a luncheonette, and they sold a lot of candy. So I would bring back candy. My friends would give me lists of what candy to bring back.
And that about wraps up the interview. Thank you for...
You're welcome, Matthew. It was a pleasure.
Okay. I had the whole family around. It was pizza night too. So I was trying not to get them to say anything the whole time. Okay.